Welcome to AYP Live. This episode is sponsored by Taqa, the enabler of energy.
Welcome back to AYP Live, where we cut through the noise and have real conversations about careers, leadership, and the industries shaping our future. This episode is proudly sponsored by Taqa, and we're tackling a big one. Energy Unplugged. Where do young professionals really fit? Because, let's be honest, the energy sector is constantly in the headlines. Transition, turbulence, AI, skills shortages, political pressure. If you're under 35 and building your career, where exactly do you stand in all of that? If you're watching, please drop in the comments where you're watching from, and don't be afraid to ask our guests a question. We're joined by two guests living it all in real time. First up, we have my co-host for this evening, Nathan Sussex, who is a design engineer and a young professional working within the energy sector with Taqa. And also joining us is Ross Aitkenhead, who works within the energy sector as a field engineer, also at Taqa. So let's get into it and let's welcome the guys onto the show. How we doing, gents?
Very good.
Yeah, well, it's good so far.
Yeah. No, thanks for joining us. Let's kind of just get things kicked off and let's have a look at like an early career reality check, shall we call it that. What do you guys feel, is the biggest myth about starting a career in energy today? Can I ask yourself that one, Ross, first of all?
I think that a lot of young people think that to enter industry you need to be like some sort of engineer. I think there's more to it than that. I think it's quite a broad industry. I think especially when I was first coming into industry, a lot of people my age, boys my age, 17, 18, wanted just to like, what do you want to do? And like, you just want to be an engineer. You heard that quite a lot. So I think, yeah, coming into the industry, I think a lot of people just want to be engineers when there's so much more than that.
And what about yourself, Nathan?
Yeah, the myth definitely of one route into energy is definitely not true. Yeah, a lot more diverse than you would expect. So mine is engineering background, but you've got the technical side of things, you've got the lab, you've got supply chain, you've got the legal side of things. Not my area of expertise there, but yeah, my own personal one is you can't just walk into it without expecting too much hassle. So I went to college. When I got my grades, I went to university, and you can get this complex where you feel like you know everything, but you very quickly get humbled. So yeah, doesn't really matter what industry or even any job. Energy is the same. And the fact that you need to build a foundation first, so you can then start building your career like you would a house, for example.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, we see a lot, in a variety of releases, like on LinkedIn, for example, that companies are always saying that young people are more than welcome in the industry. We're trying to entice young people in the industry. But to start with yourself, Nathan, do you feel that young professionals genuinely feel welcome in the industry, or is it just all down to marketing?
I believe that we generally do get welcome the younger generation into the industry. Everyone has a different take on life and how to tackle problems, which is is a benefit for everyone. People like already in the industry, like myself and Ross and the older generation, we want people to succeed. So yeah, definitely feel like we welcome people that are younger than us.
What do you think, Ross? Do you think that young people are welcome in the industry?
I think they are, because the new sense of ideas, bright new ideas that aren't really seen, because a lot of the older generation in the industry have like this old way of sort of thinking and doing things. So I think they are welcomed in the way that they shed a different light and bring a different angle to ideas and problems, I think, yeah.
Yeah, because that kind of brings me quite nicely on to the next question I was going to ask you both. Do you both of you feel that the sector genuinely is open to young professionals, or do you still feel, especially when you were starting off, that it was experience gated, shall we call it that? What's your thoughts on that one, Nathan?
I think there is some sort of gated bit, but I would say it's definitely open. So when I graduated, there was a lot of graduate positions and entry positions. Taqa itself, we had a graduate engineer that was promoted up to design engineer mid to late of last year. Not last year, but a couple of years before that, we had students that were working summer placements as well. We've also had one of our colleagues. We had Rebecca Morris, who won the Aberdeen 30 Under 30 award, or one of the winners. But yeah, most my struggle, really, from my experience, was that it was about 100 people graduated at the same time, and that's just from my university, Robert Gordon, and yeah, we also graduated at the exact same time. Aberdeen's safety bubble kind of popped slightly, so we had a mixed pool of young, skilled people with experience mixing in with higher educated young people jostling for the same roles.
And what about yourself, Ross?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like from my experience, I came through an apprenticeship scheme, so I went to like a engineering college with a lot of young people my age. So there was hundreds and hundreds of young guys doing the same courses. So I think, yeah, there was a lot of young people that time entering the industry, and same as Nathan, all kind of finishing at the same time and wanting to get in. So
I think probably what would be a good point at this stage as well is to probably, because I mean, we always saying earlier on there that there is this conception of what working in the sector is all about. So it'd probably be quite a good opportunity for you to maybe tell the audience what you both actually do with Taqa as well. If you can give us like a bit of a brief overview, Nathan, if you want to start off just telling us what's your job and what's that day-to-day look like?
So I'm a design engineer, part of the design team that deals with sustaining our original products. But I do delve into R&D work as well every now and then. So my main focus is inflow control devices, both autonomous and passive. So depending on how the fluid flows through this device, it could either choke flow or it could open up and allow maximum production. So, for example, oil, it'd open up completely and allow flow through. Gas or water, we don't really want that. So we use a disc that's inside our valve that uses flow to make the disc levitate, sort of fly inside the valve, and it chokes the entry path and restricts flow. I'm also delving into one of our sand remediation tools called Filtrex, which is quite cool. And yeah, dealing with manufacturing drawings and any QC bits and bobs I need to deal with as well.
Excellent. I mean, well, Ross, you're not even in this country, are you? You're joining us from a hotel room. Tell us where you're at and what you do as well.
I'm currently in Doha. I am a field engineer, so I work in the field, in the field and in the office back on shore. But I'm in the field, yeah, do installations of products. So the job I'm on just now is one of the products Nathan just mentioned, the inflow control ICDs. So I'll be going offshore next week to run some screens with ICDs in. But yeah, that's kind of this massive range of Taqa's products that team of us, the operations team, go out and install or retrieve, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Just installations, going different places, and yeah, and then when I'm on shore, kind of planning for jobs and doing post-job activities and things. So
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, if the both of you can maybe have a think back to when you first started in the industry as well, what was the sort of toughest barrier that you felt that you faced early on? Nathan, if I can ask yourself that one first.
Yeah, so my initial barrier was standing out during the CV stage. So I sent out hundreds of CVs during my early years. Sometimes you're fortunate, you'd get an interview. Sometimes, yeah, a lot of the times I didn't, which was unfortunate for me. But yeah, sort of advice for the younger, not just engineers, but anyone coming into the energy industry is just don't, pigeonhole yourself too much into one single discipline, sort of like spread out, try bits that you maybe wouldn't have considered previously. Lots of skills can and will be transferable, so be open to different ideas. But yeah, my main barrier, my toughest barrier that I faced was the interview stages. So yeah, Ross touched on it as well, that you can get hundreds of people going for the same job. And the one that I like to say the most whenever I'm asked about the difficulties was that I had an interview, a first stage interview with a respectable subsea service company, and it was a group interview. So arrived early, got told to go into a waiting room, and as I walked in, two of my best friends were there that I'd done college and university with, which I didn't know they were doing at the same time. It was a sort of going, oh, wait, you're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was also a few other people from our class as well. So easily could just gel. It wasn't a problem with the group aspect part of that interview. But the problem was there was only 2 spaces available. And I wasn't one of the ones that got a space, but my 2 friends did. So kind of good, I guess.
Well, you're still calling them friends, so that's good.
I'm still calling them friends, yes. Well, yeah.
No, I mean, that's obviously my line of work as well. I mean, that's what I do for a living as well. And I think it's, I've always said that to companies. I think that's usually your first, perception of a company is when you go through that interview stage, whether it's, at graduate apprenticeship level or, an experience level as well. So I think it's, as long as a company can provide a good, supportive interview process and, provide feedback, etc., it'll hopefully give you a very good image of the company, because you never know where you're going to end up as well in the future, do you? What about yourself? What about yourself, Ross?
Mine's similar to Nathan. It's kind of just getting your foot in the door. Leaving school, I was going after an apprenticeship and applying to different places. Like Nathan, you go for group interviews and like aptitude tests and things, and you get so far, and then it's other candidates get chosen. So it's you get pushed back, but it's going to different interviews and going to that engineering college. You had to do an aptitude test, and again walked into the room and there was like 3 or 4 people I knew. Being at that age, you just there's a good few people that are going after the same positions. But yeah, once I got past that sort of stage, it's you knock down that barrier. It's good, plain sailing.
Yeah, I think if you've obviously both got the the drive to succeed, and I think if that comes across, when you're doing an interview process, I can say that much as well from interviewing a number of people over the years, and I think if you see somebody who's got that drive and ambition, that certainly, gets you, think this is somebody that's going to be right for the role as well. But a question I was going to put to you both in this section of the interview was there ever a point that you want to question whether the industry was the right move for you, bearing in mind, especially in the UK, it's a mature basin, etc. Was there ever a time that either of you kind of thought, what, but maybe this wasn't the right move, or it is the right move? What about yourself, Nathan? What do you want to start that one?
For engineering question, no, there was never a question about it. Straight away, I was going to go for that. Yeah, industry, yes. Oil and gas. I love motorsport very much, and anything aerospace, because who doesn't like it? It's cool. But no, I was heavily influenced by my parents, especially my dad, who was working at Shell and AMEC when I was growing up. So yeah, there wasn't really a question on the discipline, but yeah, the area was definitely up for debate.
What about yourself, Ross?
I always wanted to work in industry, doing some sort of engineering. Obviously, being in Aberdeen, northeast, a lot of people are probably the same. I always said to my dad and things, I want to work offshore, I want to do this, and being young, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do offshore?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I just want to go offshore. I want to travel. You know, I don't actually know what I wanted to do. Yeah, I've always wanted to do it. Ever since I was in school, I kind of knew apprenticeship, that sort of avenue was the route for me. So yeah, it was never a question."
So this is the bit where my co-host abilities come in. So yeah, so skills and like staying relevant to the actual industry. So for you, Ross, what sort of skills matter most, from your opinion, for young professionals entering energy sector now?
Skill that it's not just this industry, but all of them. I think is communication. I think it should be prioritized as a core skill. You should be able to communicate well, speak clear, that sort of thing. Speak in a room full of people. I think is a good skill to have.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in your career or industry, it's just a great skill, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. And yeah, I think communication is definitely the best one. From my sort of experience would be sort of persistence. I can either have a memory of a goldfish, or I remember everything in tiny, minute detail, like I do with like Formula One. Love that. Can remember a lot about it. Drives my other half nuts. But yeah, I can also drive her the opposite way of nuts when I need to go to the shop and I forget anything that I was meant to get. So
Wait to get older, Nathan.
oh, great! Yeah, I don't need that. I don't think she needs to hear that too. But yeah, persistence, and maybe if you need a sort of repeated going through it, repetition. Yeah, that's sort of things that I would go with in sort of saying that skills that matter. You know, you remember things if you do it repeatedly, not once in a blue moon. So this leads me quite well on to the next sort of question for you, Ross. Is technical skills. Do you find them, or from your opinion, would you say they're more important than adaptability? So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I think, yeah, technical skills. I think they're great. Being able to adapt is so. If you, yeah, no, I don't know how to word it really. I've got it in my head. Yeah, if you want to answer this one in your own words, Nathan, it's
Yeah,
probably
I'd
me
like to take it on.
blurbing
No,
out
you're
here.
adapting just now to a difficult question.
Yeah.
But I would say technical skills is not as important as adaptability, but they help. So we always talk about energy as shifting. As I've already mentioned, my dad was in oil and gas. He was in it for almost 40 years before having a career change to a slower pace. He's in his 70s now, mid 70s. So he was like, I don't want to stop working, but I want to take things a bit slower. But I bet if we put the landscape that we have now to when he was when he started his career, yeah, he'd probably think we were joking. And if I went one step further into my grandparents, they probably thought I was deluded in going in talking about windmills and solar power and this, that, and the other. And well, my grandparents were nuclear sort of based ideas and oil and gas when it was really first starting out.
I think that we are sort of in a good place for adapting. I think adapting from traditional oil and gas to different energy sources. I think in terms of renewables coming in, I think we are going to be key in that adaptability, I think.
Yeah. Also,
It'll
it's
be,
like,
it'll be key for the next sort of, as especially in the UK, and I think adaptability is going to be key for young professionals moving forward. Because I always think that technical skills can be kind of taught really in a roundabout way, but the adaptability is in the person as well. And I think we've all got to become adaptable now. The way things are, don't we?
well, very much, yeah. And it's how effective that you adapt to. Like when you think about electric cars, for example, still in the energy sector, we're not quite fully implemented that across the entire nation, but we've been talking about it for years. So we didn't have the technical skills to get us into the correct place to deal with, let's say, everyone going to electric. But yeah, it's like wind power as well. We're using the same sort of ideology for centuries. Windmills crush a grain and whatnot. It's still the same sort of turning motion, same technical sort of skills, but just need to get a bit of adapting that to harnessing it for powering our homes, our heating, our TVs when we want to sort of relax at the weekend or in a hotel room that Ross is in. Excuse me. So, has the energy transition created real opportunity, or is it a new terminology? Would you think, Ross?
I think we'll see over time. I think because it's forever transitioning, the energy sector. I think that whether we continue our focus on oil and gas, or if we go more into sort of renewables, that sort of idea, and that in itself will create big opportunities, I think. Obviously moving away from oil and gas. I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, to sort of give other people that are listening in an insight to what Taqa does, we are an oil and gas company. Taqa is based in Saudi Arabia. And yeah, they've bolstered their know-how in acquiring different companies to get a broader spectrum for the whole business. But one sort of job that I'm currently involved in for a sort of an R&D project is geothermal sector. So we're using our existing inflow control devices and retrofitting them to deal with the higher temperatures, which is one of the struggles I'm dealing with right now. And they're significantly higher. So normal rubber elastomers don't survive at these temperatures. So you have to go down the metallic route, which has its own difficulties. Rubber bounces back. Metallic O-rings don't really bounce back. They fix into one shape once they've been crushed. But the challenge is trying to keep their performance with this new restriction of higher temperature. But yeah, as Ross has mentioned, I'm also interested in the clean energy. Trying to remove our reliance off of fossil fuels is good for everyone, especially when you've got a giant ball of fire in the sky to heat up your water and your solar panels and whatnot. We're lucky in the UK; we've got lots of tidal power too, or geothermal, using the power of the earth to heat up water and using steam from that, for example. I don't know, Ross, if you've got any, Ross J, if you've got any other thoughts from that. There's Ross A, Ross J, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I just think as well. It's been interesting for AYP as a group. When we first started off in 2009, we were inundated, and I mean literally inundated with people trying to work in the industry. And I think what's came a bit more worrying for us over, especially the last 5, 6, 7 years, has been that could be a handful of people have contacted us directly to say, how can I get into the industry? And I think for ourselves, it is quite worrying, and hence we're having this conversation tonight, which I think is fantastic. And a lot of the observations that I certainly probably make, a guy in my mid-40s that's been in industry for coming up for 25 years, is that I think the energy transition will probably create a lot of opportunities for certainly my see me through to hopefully retirement, but also for the the young skill set coming through. But I think there's an awful lot of confusing messages out there. There's an awful lot of confusing articles that people are picking up on, and it's probably been a little bit of a political hot potato for a number of. We won't go down the political route, but it's been a bit of a political hot potato for a number of the parties in the UK, especially to probably to deal with.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's exciting times, and I think it's just about creating that excitement, because it's guys like yourself who are coming through, challenging the norm, coming up with fresh ideas, that's going to make this transition faster.
Yeah. And you can keep that hot potato, because I don't want that. So leading on for the next question, which is definitely a good thing to have in a very growing industry, is how do you stay competitive in an industry that is evolving so fast? For you, Ross,
Just I think you just have to keep growing and keep learning. I think because if you don't, somebody else will. I think so. If you want to stay competitive in what you do, I think that you need to keep learning and keep experience, do different things, do things out your comfort zone, and just try taking as much as you can, and just as many opportunities and training, knowledge, everything, to take it all in. And yeah.
From my standpoint would be sort of focus. That's the word I would use to stay competitive. Build your nice sort of area of expertise that you feel comfortable talking about, and can take you further in your own sort of role. And then once you're ready to branch out, you've got a nice foundation, and most of it is usually transferable, or it links back to what you've studied. But yeah, it's easier to hit a moving target if your foundation is nice and steady, so you can, as I said, focus. But yeah, the industry is evolving so quick. New technologies and ideologies seem to come out of the woodwork all the time. But yeah, the fundamentals, the raw basics, you boil it down, it's the same qualities. There's a reasons why we use calculations and reasonings from centuries ago. Again, I'm using my own engineering background as a sort of a reference. But it's evolving very fast.
I mean, do you both think that about creating?
So now that we've said about what we think is,
yeah, I was just going to say, because I was thinking,
absolutely.
so making yourself valuable. I mean, one thing I've always said is nobody's indispensable, really, but I think it's trying to create that value around your own value proposition as an employee or a contractor. So I've always said to people to try and like what Ross alluded to about skill set, building up your skills, soaking up like a sponge, like what Ross was saying as well. It's a good way of doing it, and I think it's a good work ethic. Is the best way I'd probably class it as to probably have. And I think it's you try and make yourself as valuable, as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've talked about being competitive. What sort of skills would you say are underrated in an energy career right now? I kind of want to put that to both of you, because Ross, you're sort of your same age as me. You're only been in it for handful of years, maybe 2 hands full of years. Ross J, you've been here for a bit longer. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on these ones. Go Ross A first and see what his thoughts are on this.
What I'm gonna say, like a skill set, I think that's underrated, and this might be not what people think, but I think a good, strong work ethic, motivation to progress. I think a lot of people now don't have that. I think they expect a lot of things to be given to them. I think that you need to have the motivation to keep going, and not get to a certain stage and think, well, now that I've done this and I've done this training course and I've got this bit of paper. I should get this. It's not as easy as that. I think that's quite underrated skill to have, is just to not have the expectation that it should be given to you when you get to a certain stage, I think.
Yeah, I'll give that. Ross, Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably follow on with what Ross was saying there as well. I think for me, I wrote a blog on this just the other week there about authenticity, really, than everything else. I think for me, it's great working with people that are, authentic. And I think that what I mean by that is, I think it's I mean, I don't want to sound like an old man here either, but I think when I see sometimes the younger generation are used to, Instagram and Reels and things like that, they're reading on LinkedIn how everyone's so successful, how everyone's just making such an impact in their career, getting up at 5, jogging 10K, doing yoga, then going to work, etc. But the reality is, the industry that that we're in, it's not a 9 to 5 job, and especially when you're working offshore as well. As my dad was always kind of keen for me to get out of the office and get on a regular or a FPSO, for example, just to start working 12-hour shifts and then maybe 16 hours for a crew change, all that sort of good stuff. But I think it's if you've got authenticity about you, and you've got a bit of a realization of where you are right now in your career, your own ambition, and you work out a plan where you want to get to, and you reach out to people around you, or you can reach out to groups like AYP. I'll put a little plug in there, but you can reach out to groups like ourselves, who are volunteers and people that have been in the sector, not necessarily have to be in the sector, but can help you out with your own career. But I think if you come across authentic, you'll go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since some generations can have a stigma attached to it. Like the older generation could be quite tight-lipped and not really want to share information, or focus on their own bits and pieces. Or the Gen Z side of things, they don't prioritize the stigma is they don't prioritize work. They center their lives elsewhere, or this, that, and the other. But there you go.
Good comment on it from Gonza here.
Oh yeah, there's something that sort of says that there's differences of ideology of what they want to prioritize, whether it's the work, which you can see with the older generation, and the younger generation that don't too much. So yeah, just being authentic to yourself, come across as clear. Yeah, an underrated one. From my point of view, for an engineering background, is just understanding how things come together. It sounds dull, but like the simplicity of certain things are actually quite impressive. Like a pen, you click it, oh look, there you go. You can now use the ballpoint and draw the rest of it, click it, oh, it's done. But someone actually had to go and try to get this to work correctly. You don't want just ink splattering everywhere. Oh, it clicked, that's broken. Understanding how things go together. I think that's an underrated skill in not just energy careers, but in any sort of career. From my experiences making the new generation of AICDs, autonomous inflow control devices, that Ross A is putting together in a sand screen to go downhole. Our new generation requires some extra checks during the prototype stage, and one of them was there's a little pocket in the valve where it has pressure, and you model this up on the computer, and it all looks perfect, spick and span. It's even easier to say it out loud, how easy it would be. And then you go into the workshop and you're contortioning your body to try and fit your arm in to try and get this little plug for this bit to measure. Yeah, it was a nightmare. It's fiddly. It's resolved now, thank goodness. But yeah, just an underrated skill is how things come together. My other one was I was given a little product that we have, and on a computer screen, it's nice big, you can sort of see every little bit of detail. And the engineering manager at the time was like, do you want to see this in person? I was like, yeah, sure, expecting it to be the size of a bowling ball. And I put my hands out to go and pick it up, and he just dropped it in my hand. Was like, oh, okay, I am so misinterpreting this. But yeah, little fine details, understand how it come together. Underrated.
I mean, I was going to probably then ask you both, right? If we start now looking towards the future, right? We hear plenty about AI, digitalisation in the industry, etc. If we focus on AI, I mean, I've even got Grok in my car now, right? So it can actually tell you what's in front of you, if what landmark that is. It can tell story to the kids in the background, so it's great. I can imagine, long journeys, it's ace. But AI, either both of you feel that it's either a threat or do you see it's an opportunity for young professionals in this sector? And I'll start with yourself, Ross. What do you think on that?
I don't think it's a threat, Rob. I think it's going to be it's going to get more and more advanced, but I think it's going to be good in terms of being sort of like an assistant or having that sort of capability to turn to it to kind of do different like automations or just like sort of chat GPT, ask it a question. I don't use AI too much, but yeah, I do use chat GPT if it's good for if you need explanation on something, if you don't feel something, if you don't understand it, it's good just to get them to break it down, or it's a good thing to have. But as much as anything else, people will abuse it, and it could become a bad thing. But from a base level, I think it's sort of a good thing to have in the industry.
Yeah. And are you using it much in your role, Nathan? Do you find it like a threat or opportunity in your line of work?
A little bit of both is how I'd answer it. So threat-wise, I'll deal with that bit because that's easier to talk about. Yeah, people can become too reliant on it, without checking the source or backing it up with other sources. So for like the younger people coming up through their careers, you'll do your project reports, and you'll have to put in references. And if you just chuck in one reference, it just looks like you've just scattergunned it. Just went, there you go, some words. You need to back it up, and this is the same with AI. You need to back up with a bit more proof. You can easily design a flange. I actually watched just the other day. There's a video, and it's an AI, and it says, "Oh, I want this flange with this many holes for the bolts," and then it went, "Ta-da! There you go, built this model." And you can say, "Oh, you can just order it straight away," but did it take into account temperature fluctuations of both the fluid and outside? Are you in Alaska or are you in the Sahara? What kind of fluid was it? Was it corrosive? Was it just water? Or was it terrible? That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't take into account that sort of thing. So you can get sort of, it feels like a safety net, but that safety net is made of cheese. It ain't going to hold you if you're falling into it.
That's a really good way of putting it, I think. Yeah, because I think I'd agree with you both on that. It's a good source to kind of, I want to say bounce ideas off of, but to kind of maybe seek a bit of clarity on, but it's not 100% yet. We're still probably in the very early stages. But I mean, from your guys' perspective as well, do you find that, we read a lot about digital transformation in the sector. Are you finding it actually happening on the ground at like sort of, your levels as well? Or is it just purely board level, putting out on LinkedIn and Energy Voice, etc., that we're doing lots of digitalization? Do you guys actually see that on the shop floor, shall we say? Nathan, we'll start with you this time. But do you see it?
It does happen on the ground a little bit. It just gets highlighted and pushed more, I'd say, board level. I'm not board level, so when the people that are on the board, Ross could also sort of agree, well, not agree, but you'll hear our board members will talk about it a lot more. They want the automation, they want to do this, that, and the other. And yeah, I'm starting seeing a little bit on the ground, but it's more like the software that we use. So, for instance, like the 3D modeling package, you can see it starting to come in and saying, I can do this, I can do that. Or the most annoying one I have right now is Adobe for PDFs. It's like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. It's like, I don't want you. Go off. But no, I still think physical involvement is, it cannot be replaced yet.
Yeah. How about yourself, Ross?
I agree with Nathan. That you can't miss the sort of physical aspect to it. Yeah, I agree with that.
So, like, we've kind of touched on it a little bit in the last probably bit of the interview. But how could both of you guys feel that someone in their 20s, right, could really future-proof themselves in this sector? Is it like upskilling? Is it retraining? What do you both feel that someone in their 20s should do to kind of future-proof themselves? I can ask yourself, Ross, first.
I think if since the industry is always sort of changing, if you're in that if you're wanting to stay in the industry for your full career, I think just forever learning. Just if you want to future proof yourself, always keep up with latest trends, latest technologies. There's always rapid growth in the industry, and you kind of need to keep up, especially sort of with, like we just said, the AI trend. I think that's where the younger generation may excel a bit more, with having that sort of just a generation the past 10 years, sort of having that like technology growth. I think being in the center of that, they're going to have a better core foundation for things like new technologies and AI. But yeah, I think for future proofing yourself, I think just keep up and learn, and even learn old skills, because the old skills will always be beneficial to you.
What about yourself, Nathan?
Oh yeah, we're always going to need the energy. Future proof wise, I would say, yeah, go look at how we make it now. Come up with any ideas that simplifies it or reduces its cost for suppliers, and especially us, the consumers, because that's expensive. Or just maybe even come up with a novel approach. There seems to be a lot of novel approaches coming out every day, and hopefully it can be all of those things that will help sort of future proof you for the sector. I think even just day-to-day lives give you, day-to-day activity in life gives you some ideas of maybe how to simplify, make things easier for you in the future.
Great.
So, excuse me. So for culture and the confidence that we have to sort of pick up and carry with us through the energy sectors, how would you say young professionals should find their voice in a room full of senior decision makers? I never like doing it, but what are your thoughts, Rosse? What are your thoughts on finding your voice?
The same. I'm not huge on the idea of it. Sometimes you need to do it. You can step up and do it. Speak in a room full of people. But I think in doing that, I think preparation's key. I think doing things like your comfort zone more and more will build that experience for you. Being in a room full of people who are already experienced, and they're speaking about something, if you think that you've got a better idea, say it, or shed a different angle on it, or if you don't understand it, ask the question. I've always been told since I've entered the industry, the same as you guys, there's no such thing as a stupid question, which is 90% true. I think like 10% it's not. People will laugh at you, but I think in that sort of sense, people who if you want to ask a question, people who are knowledgeable in that experience and see that you're keen to ask questions and learn more, they'll answer your questions, no problem. But yeah, I think preparation is one of the big things for speaking in a room full of people.
Yep, I agree with that. You may not be aware, but I also like to waffle on certain aspects. I'm also autistic, so that doesn't exactly help when in a large room of people. So I get quite nervous beforehand. So, as you say, in preparing, when you actually go into it, I like to do a pre-prepare. I go and speak with like one senior person, and it's easier to talk to one person than it is a group of people who have their own various ideas of their own. But that helps sort of boost my position beforehand before I speak up during the larger meeting, and it also gives you a chance to have someone else to support your ideas. And yeah, if you do receive some feedback that isn't so positive, don't be afraid about it. Just ask a question and see if you can get a bit more detail, which is something I do a lot. Unfortunately, to everyone else, you get a bit more detail, but it stops me making the same mistake again. So yeah, I think that's a good answer. Being prepared is a good is a good answer. So if this energy sector wants to attract and retain young professional talent, what sort of cultural shifts does the energy sector need most, do you think? I want to put that to both of you as well for this one. So Ross, if you want to take the lead on this one.
I think a cultural shift would be, obviously, Nathan, you work with some R&D stuff, research and development. I think that experimentation is a good thing. A lot of people don't like to do it because they might fail. But I think, failing's the best way to learn.
Yeah, it is.
Having the ability to accept failure is a good attribute to have. So I think they need to kind of experiment and find ways that work and that don't work.
Yeah. What about yourself, Ross J? What are your thoughts on that one? You've been in the energy sector just a little bit longer than the pair of us.
Yeah, I think not just the energy sector. I think all sectors need to evaluate, where we're at to try and attract new talent into their own sector. Working habits change, cultures change. I know I've worked with some, managers over the years where, if you weren't glued to your desk, from 9 to 5, what you're doing, but you could be doing something else remotely. You could be, it's a whole host of different ways you can be doing your job now. And I think that COVID showed that could happen. For example, I work full time from home because my headquarters is down in Manchester. But I still like to go out and meet with people. Does it mean I couldn't do my job because I don't have a physical office up here? No, it doesn't. So I think that all sectors, not just the energy sector, needs to realise that working habits will change. The demands and requirements of the workforce changes over time as well. And I think the energy sector, if they kind of look at how they can meet the demands of the future workforce with the skill set that they need, but also meet the demands of what the workforce is looking for to reach the demands that the sector requires as well. It'll have a longevity element to it too. But and I think just probably moving away from not doing it the way it's always been done, I think, is having individuals like yourselves challenging the norm, but in a constructive way. I liken it to being married, because if you say to your wife, well, I want to do this, she tells you no, you've got to kind of work around her. I'm sure she won't move you, but hopefully she's not watching. But it's just like you won't always get the way that you want to do it, and you've got to accept that. And I think that if you can do it that aspect, it will hopefully help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I agree with all of it apart from the other half. Mainly because mine is literally just an earshot away. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good answer. To build on it, I'd like to say like a cleaner, clearer career path could be one of the ways to attract and retain young professionals. I had an issue during COVID where we had a restructure. So people moved on to new pastures for different challenges, and my role kind of fell through the cracks. This was a previous role. I was a product development engineer. And funnily enough, in the restructure, my next career move was CTO. I only had 2 years experience Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for a multinational company. I was the same level as the engineering manager, who's vastly more knowledgeable than me. So yeah, that was not a good fit. Luckily, after a change attack and being now in the design team, yeah, but now there's a clearer path that I can sort of attain. But yeah, also as like another one's good younger role models as well. No ageism sort of comment there. It was more the fact that the older generation had their own version of the industry and how they came through it. Me and Ross have a slightly different one. And now, as we've talked about AI, that wasn't there when we started. So there's even more changes. So yeah, hopefully like myself and Ross provide the younger role model to help on the modern way of students and other people in apprenticeships.
Good. Yeah.
So this is a great one to ask is mentorship. Preferably organically, or would you think structure is more important? What are your thoughts on that, Ross?
Both. There's positives to both. I think organic. I think that if you have a mentor that's organic, they're not. If it's sort of structured, you're kind of following more of a script. But if you've got a mentor that's sort of organic, and if they're taking you along and they want to spend time with you, explain things to you, if they want to take time to work with you and explain things in depth if you don't understand it until you get there, I think that's a really good thing. But structure, I think that's also a good thing because you can kind of see how you progress and see how and where you need to progress to. I think that both have great positives.
Yeah, I would approve on that, and the organically is flexible. It helps you spread out into areas that if you had a structured approach, it's A, B, C, D, but this one could be here, there, and everywhere. I've got my own mentor, and that came about organically. That's now became structured. A little bit of flexibility here and there, where we're not always dealing with the same projects. But yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Both is important. Career advice. So good for this interview is best career advice that you've received. And funnily enough, Ross J mentioned the one that I would say is be a sponge. Simple advice that my dad gave to me many years ago. It's like you're not expected to know anything and to know everything, but you do have some level of expectation of taking some teaching and lessons. So Ross, what are your thoughts on your best career advice that you've been given?
Your advice was it was just before I did my first trip offshore. I was kind of unsure whether to go, or I was kind of unsure of the job, and someone just said to me, just say yes, just no matter what, just if there's an opportunity there, just say yes, because if you don't know at that point, you'll figure it out along the way. I thought that's, and funnily enough, I did. So it's sort of that get thrown at the deep end idea, which is good up until a point. But when
you're offshore, you don't want to be thrown at the deep end.
Yeah, competence comes in there somewhere. But I think just say yes. If there's a opportunity for, if you're going to present something or take responsibility for a task, just say yes. I think if you don't know at that point, you'll figure it out, and you'll know by the end of it. You'll come out the end a better person.
Yeah. What about you, Ross J? What's the best advice you've been given?
Yeah, I would say I probably have about 3 bits of advice, and I think the first one probably following on from what Ross was saying about saying yes. I mean, I think as Aberdonians, I can't speak for yourself, but I'm an Aberdonian, but we're always kind of been this, bit of a demeanour about us and things like that. But I look back at one point in my career where I was offered an opportunity to move abroad, but just my wife was my fiance at that point. we, had an opportunity to move abroad. We just nearly bought a house here, but then we thought, you know what? I was going to look back at that point in my career and go, what if? And I didn't want to do that. So I went, who cares? Let's just go for it. And we did it. And it was the best thing. And it probably put my career up a vast amount of steps very, very quickly. So I would also say one that my dad told me many moons ago was about, I won't use the terminology because I won't turn this where was don't pee people off on the way up because you might meet them on the way down. And that is so true. I think that's just basically saying don't burn bridges. I think that we're all human. We can all, have a moment where you maybe disagree with somebody and what have you, but try not, keep it professional. And I think walk away from situations, put the keyboard down, put the phone down, and things like that as well.
Relax,
but yeah, I mean, the final one that I got, which was in my first main kind of role, was the MD at the time said to me, he goes, I'm always learning. That's what he told me, and he'd been in the industry for 35, 40 years. And I thought, wow, I thought you'd have all the answers, but he said, no, I'm always learning. So I think if you kind of keep these kind of things in your head, I feel that it'll be a good piece of advice for you, especially in this industry as well. It's just continue to learn. Don't turn anything down if you get an opportunity, because you might look back and go, what if? And again, don't burn any bridges.
I think that's great advice. I feel a bit bad now because you gave 3 and I gave 1. I think Ross gets a 2. But yeah, okay, so that's good advice. So let's flip it and say, what advice should young professionals ignore? What do you think, Ross?
It's
a tricky one.
Yeah.
It is a tricky one because you don't really want to ignore.
Really, the worst advice, but I don't know. Sure.
Well, Ross J, what advice do you think young professionals should ignore?
I would say it would probably slightly different than ignoring. I would just be probably a bit more selective about who you take the advice from, because do your little bit of homework. Because I think, we're in I don't want to sound like an old man again, but we're in a social media environment, right, where there's a lot of people got opinions on things. There's a lot of people proclaiming to be experts in certain fields, but do your research. Look into somebody who's making to try and help you. I mean, there might be, really, they might have good positive way to try and help you, but look at their background. Have they been there and got the t-shirt essentially? And just be wary about the advice that you do get. But ultimately, I think you should just go with your gut feel. You're the master of your own destiny. Take advice from people that you trust and make up your own mind, really. And I think gut feeling is a good one to use. It's certainly helped me.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, and the advice that we shouldn't be taking. But I agree with that. And also, we've touched on AI. That now has its own opinion from what we type in, so ignore that too. Use sources, reputable sources. One of them I was told of ignoring advice was get out of the oil and gas industry. It's all doom and gloom. It's going to be completely replaced overnight. No. So we still need it for a multitude of things. There's a TV show that we watched. It was Landman that we watched on Paramount.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant series.
Yeah. And there's a scene in it where the main character is talking to the lawyer right in front of a wind turbine, explaining the reasons why we still need oil for the world. And he lists all these bits and pieces that just cannot exist without oil. So, I still think clean energy is important and renewable energy is the way to go forward, but oil and gas isn't just going to stop. It's going to be toned down a little bit until we can get something that's synthetic to take over, which whether that's going to happen, not in the near future, but it's not ready for disappearing into the history books.
Yeah, it's all the headlines you see, and it's like, oh, this big company's gone into administration, and this big company's fired 4,000 employees. you only see the negatives,
Yeah.
and people see that and they go into a state of, oh, the industry's, it's dead, but it's not the case at all.
Yeah. So the energy sector, advice-wise, of stuff to ignore is no energy sector is, dying a death. They're all growing, just different rates.
Well, I think we can all agree that energy demand's not going to go down. As the population certainly increases, it's only going to go one way as well. So,
That's true.
and I mean, and it kind of moves me on to, I mean, you believe it or not, guys, we're coming up to the conclusion of the interview tonight. And I mean, I knew that when I said to you that it passes very quickly, it does.
It does.
So, but like, if we kind of fast forward 10 years from now, what role do you guys think will today's young professionals play in shaping the energy sector? And we'll give my co-host Nathan the first dibs of this one, since he's been asking the questions.
Oh dear. I would. I would hope by that point that we would have significantly improved the amount of renewable or clean energy produced nationally, and less relying on imports, for example. So the sectors that are coming up, I would hope that they would keep going up higher and become a bigger thing in our lives. See, the role I would also think is that they would possibly help provide solutions to energy storage, because that's something that we hear in the news that we supposedly struggle with dealing with our demand. But yeah, that's a heck of a question.
Well, so I mean, what about yourself, Ross? Have you got any kind of thoughts on where you think that young professionals will play in shaping it in the next sort of 10 years?
I think, obviously, just touching on the idea of just the rapid growth of again, AI technology, I think there'll be more of an understanding of things like AI in 10 years. I think there'll be more of the experts per se, but I think with things like that, yeah, I think technology, AI, yeah, I think they'll have a good understanding of transitioning it from where we are today to a future in the energy industry.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, to kind of finalize the interview, I'm just going to ask you some very quick fire questions. So I've got a nice little graphic to put up here. So we'll go straight into the quick fire question round.
Okay.
There we go. I'll quickly just say to you, Ross, what's the biggest misconception about energy careers?
It's slow or old-fashioned. People have the idea that it's still in the 80s. It's not the case. It's one of the fastest growing industries there is. So yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I feel like I have to clone myself to deal with the workload. Yeah, the pace. They think it's slow and all the rest of it. It's not, or it's not for us at least.
Yeah. And what's one thing you wish you knew at 18 that you know now? Ross, what do you think?
The role you first come into the industry in you won't be in it forever. You'll change a lot. You'll change a number of times. So don't just think that you'll be in that job forever. That path forever. It'll a windy path.
What about you, Nathan?
Mine would probably be I'm very hands-on with the stuff that I do in our workshop. Building test fixtures, testing various different products. But yeah, a bit more hands-on even back then would be advantageous. And I went to college first because I didn't quite get the grades to go to university straight away, and I was panicking at that point. But it didn't really, overall, it didn't matter. I still made it where I wanted to. So, take a chill pill a little bit.
The final one I was just going to ask you both is, to kind of close off the interview, what would be the one, very short, what would be a one piece of advice you would give for someone who's watching this, who's thinking about entering this sector tomorrow? Ross, what would you say?
I would say gain as much knowledge as you can and speak to as many people as you can and just pick people's brains.
Brilliant. Nathan?
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not expected to know all the answers, and it's actually a huge positive if you ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you're interested. We want interested people in. We want your different points of view as well. Yeah, there's so many different routes in the energy sector, not just engineering like the two of us. Yeah, there's so much availability.
Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I want to say, thank you for spending your evening talking to me and also the viewers from Aberdeen Young Professionals Network. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way? Is it like LinkedIn or something, just to kind of, if they want to maybe follow up after our conversation tonight?
Yeah,
For me,
yeah,
that's my main one for anything industry related.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, I'll let you go for this evening. But no, thank you very much for dropping in by and talking us through your own journeys in the energy sector tonight. Ross, Nathan, thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ross.
Okay, well, that was a really good in-depth chat with the guys there. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to maybe check out some of our previous live videos, you'll get them on the QR code there down below. And if you want to register yourself on our YouTube channel and subscribe there, that would be great. Yeah, finally, I just want to kind of really say as a closing statement from tonight's conversation that, if we strip away the politics, the press releases, the transition talk, the forecasts and the fear, what's kind of really left is that the future of the energy sector is not going to be built by the loudest people or the oldest people, or indeed the people who think they've already got it solved. It's going to be built by people willing to learn, willing to adapt, and willing to actually roll up their sleeves. And the young professionals who haven't been told this is how it's always been done for long enough to believe it. So, here's the truth. There's room for you in this sector, but there's need for you in this sector as well. And the sector won't change unless young professionals keep pushing it. So take opportunities early, ask better questions, challenge respectfully, and don't wait for the permission to have impact. The industry needs your voice now, not later. So as always, stay curious, stay ambitious, and always stay plugged in. And see you next time on AYP Live. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Aberdeen Young Professionals. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more events. Want to join us in person? Visit www.aypgroup.co.uk to find out what's next. See you there.